things would not have happened, and the insurgency, in my opinion, would not have begun. I don't see how it could happen.
This for you, Mr. O'Brien. This past summer, the Washington Post ran a series of articles related to contractors and kind of the evolution of this military-industrial complex. And so my question for you is, how much oversight does the American government actually have over these defense contractors based on your experience, and have we evolved in kind of this military-industrial complex-based society?
Thank you for asking that question. When Dwight Eisenhower, his last speech to the United States in 1961, before he left office, he coined the phrase the military-industrial complex. I devote a lot of time to that in my book. And what happened was, there's it's the old expression, the tail wagging the dog. Okay, if you've got so much money going into defense contractors. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but what happens if the government doesn't need the things they make? For example, what happens? Well, they go out of business. They have lobbyists on the Hill. They don't want to go out of business. So how do they stay in business? You can complete the thought, okay? But that was just, tanks and airplanes and M16s and stuff like that. And Dwight Eisenhower, in '61, saw this trend in our country where private industry was saying, well, we made this plane for you in World War II and in Korea, and our plane and our tank and our rifle won the war. You can't let us, like Chrysler, you can't let us go out of business. Oh, okay. Well, how do you not let them go out of business? Okay? War. So then, Vietnam, and then all these other wars. But with this war, we saw it a little bit in Kosovo and all that, but with this war, we're seeing a whole new type of, a new piece or aspect of the military-industrial complex. The mercenary. It's a company that doesn't make a tank. It provides a soldier. Our country is going into the use of mercenaries. And the part of your question was the control. There isn't any, because you're a Blackwater security contractor, and these guys were packing they had more equipment and ammunition and firepower than any soldier. They didn't have tanks, and they didn't have Bradley, the Bradley fighting vehicle. But as far as personal equipment and weapons and ammunition, they were packing everything a human being could carry. But here's the thing: they're in a foreign country. They're Americans. They're not subject to Iraq law, and they're not wearing a uniform, so they're not subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is the U.S. code of law that pertains to our armed forces. Nothing happens to them. On New Year's Eve 2006, a Blackwater contractor got drunk at the Tiki Bar behind the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad and shot and killed an Iraqi. He was on a plane the next day heading back to the States. Nothing happened to him. He murdered a guy. The Blackwater contractors at Nister Square that killed the 17 Iraqi civilians. They wiped them out. They wiped these people out. A lot of women, children, you name it. I've seen pictures of this man. It was a massacre. The State Department diplomatic security, who they were technically under the supervision of, you probably read about this in the paper, said to them, well, if you give us your statement, we will hold you immune from prosecution. Huh? That means if I kill somebody and I get arrested, I go, well, I'll tell you what I did if you don't prosecute me. How's that? That's what they did. I mean, that's insane. There's no control. So what ends up happening, and what's happening, I don't want to get off the topic here, but in Afghanistan, Hamid Karzai is saying, 4 months, you're out. Get out. Get out. He doesn't want contractors there. And Dr. Ali talked about the State Department. What's going to happen now? The State Department is going to be running military operations in Afghanistan, in Iraq, with contractors under the control of a regional security officer. The U.S. State Department of Defense. I mean, it's like we're just cutting corners here.
And just to add up to on the private PMCs, private military contractors. When Iraq signed an agreement with the United States in November of 2008, the security agreement, one of the sticking points was actually the status of private military contractors, under whose law they should fall.
I believe that after 9/11, national defense was a top priority. And of the two, you had Donald Rumsfeld and Colin Powell, and both very, very strong personalities, highly, highly respected, had the ear of the president and all that, but Donald Rumsfeld had more clout. If the two of them asked the president for money, Donald Rumsfeld was going to get more than, if he had to come up with a decision, Donald Rumsfeld was going to get it. And Colin Powell, excuse me, didn't have the dominant role, which he was used to, and Donald Rumsfeld got it, and no doubt the two of them did not get along like Gates and Clinton do today, but it was a different time then. It was post 9/11. It was right after 9/11, and Donald Rumsfeld, was calling the shots. But it's kind of funny. I draw an analogy between Rumsfeld and McNamara in my book, and I say they almost look alike. There are similar. They do have similar features, and in both cases, you had very strong secretaries of defense who were executing quote war, but in the case of McNamara, not to get off topic too much, but he was a statistician. I mean, he was a number cruncher. He was and then in the case of Rumsfeld, he just thought he knew how to invade a country, and he had Tommy Franks to carry the border for him. And the whole issue of senior military officers executing orders given by their civilian leadership that totally flies in the face of military doctrine and everything that they know. I talk about extensively in my book. Many senior officers in the military during this conflict resigned because they said, this is not right. This is not, the reasons aren't right, and the way we're going about it isn't right. Because if they hadn't fought in Vietnam, they had studied about Vietnam. And if you're going to do it, you've got to do it right. And we didn't do it.
Now, in terms of, I forgot to answer the question about the FY fiscal year 2011.